We spend our whole lives inside a body. We assume that's what we are. And then the body stops. Thousands of people have been declared clinically dead and brought back. At the moment their brain shut down, their awareness didn't fade. It expanded. What they experienced felt more real than waking life. Doctors, scientists, atheists, all reporting the same sequence every time. I've spent months going through these accounts, reading the testimonies, studying the research, and one thing kept stopping me: the pattern. No matter the person, their culture, their beliefs, their age, it always unfolded the same way. 5 distinct stages. This video maps all 5. We're going to start in an operating room with a cardiac surgeon named Dr. Lloyd Rudy, and a dead man who shouldn't have known what he saw. In 1970, he was performing a routine operation. The procedure took hours, they did everything right. But they couldn't get a patient off the heart-lung machine. Every time they tried to reduce the bypass, his blood pressure crashed. After hours of trying, Dr. Rudy made the call. They pronounced him dead. The operation was over. The patient was gone. The anesthesiologist shut down his equipment and left. Staff started cleaning up. Dr. Rudy's assistant loosely closed the chest for autopsy. But no one turned off the monitors. Blood pressure, pulse, all flatline. The monitor showing his heart, completely still. Dr. Rudy and his assistant took off their gowns and stood in the doorway, talking about what else they could have done. 20 minutes went by. Then the monitor started to show electrical activity, faint at first. They assumed it was just the heart twitching, a reflex. It happens sometimes, even after death. But then it turned into a heartbeat, slow, 30, 40 beats a minute, and he started generating blood pressure. Dr. Rudy started yelling for the anesthesiologist to get back in. They put him back into anesthesia, gave him oxygen and medication. His blood pressure climbed and the heart rate steadied. He survived without a brain damage. In the weeks that followed, the surgical team kept going back to talk to him. He described the bright light, the tunnel. But that wasn't what shook Dr. Rudy. The patient said he'd been floating above the operating room, watching everything unfold. Dr. Rudy and his assistant in the doorway, the anesthesiologist rushing back in. And then he described something specific. During surgery, nurses would stick phone messages on the monitor, post-it after post-it, calls for Dr. Rudy to return later. The patient saw them, but those notes weren't there before the surgery. They were written while he was on the table, while he was dead. This interview was recorded shortly before Dr. Rudy passed away. Here he is in his own words.
He described that. I mean, there's no way he could have described that before the operation because they didn't have any calls.
No.
Right?
And he's sitting on, and he's lying on the, so he must have been floating.
He was up there.
Yeah.
He described the scene, things that there is no way he knew. I mean, he didn't wake up in the operating room and see all this stuff.
No.
I mean, he was out.
Right.
And was out for, I don't know, even a day or two.
Right.
while we recovered him in the intensive care unit. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Was that his soul up there?
There are thousands of cases like this. The skeptic's answer is simple. The dying brain hallucinates. Maybe. But why do we all hallucinate the same thing? Different cultures, different centuries, and yet the same experience. Even people who should have had completely different experiences. Some had never seen anything in their lives. Others had never learned what death was supposed to look like. Vicky Umipeg was blind from birth, never saw anything in her life. After a deadly traffic accident in 1973, she was clinically dead for 4 minutes. When they revived her, she described watching them work on her body. The room, conversations between staff, medical equipment, the moment they cut her hair. But what caught the attention of psychologist Sharon Cooper, who specializes in near-death experiences of the blind, was how she described her wedding ring. She'd worn it for years, knew every detail by touch, but she'd never seen it. Here's Dr. Sharon Cooper in her own words.
If you compared her case with many sighted near-death experiencers, you would not find differences. The only difference that I was able to discern between her case and a sighted person is her description of color. She called it different brightnesses of light, and that's because she had no way to understand what color was. She did notice differences in the environment during her experience. She just didn't know what to call them.
But Vicky isn't the only case that challenges the hallucination argument. Every case we've looked at points to the same pattern. We're getting to the stages, but I need you to see this first, because nothing made that pattern clearer than what these children described. Dr. Melvin Morse, a pediatrician at Seattle Children's Hospital, spent years studying near-death experiences in children. Kids too young to have cultural conditioning about death or heaven or light. They described the same things, and some drew what they saw. What you're seeing are their actual drawings. Children too young to understand death, let alone have expectations about what it's supposed to look like. And yet, the same pattern, the same sequence as everyone else. These aren't spiritual testimonies. These are documented cases, thousands of them across decades from hospitals around the world. I went through case after case, looking for what was consistent, what kept showing up regardless of who the person was, where they came from, or what they believed. What you're about to hear comes from those accounts. People who died and came back. The first stage begins with separation. The change is sudden. Pain fades, tension drops. A strange calm appears. Then, confusion. Something's different. You're not where you were. You notice a body below you. At first, it doesn't register, then it clicks. That's mine. But it doesn't feel like you anymore. The body is over there, and you, the sense of I, you're still here, floating, watching. And then you notice how you're seeing. Everything is clearer, more precise, like spending your whole life watching a fuzzy television, then suddenly seeing in high definition. Colors grow vivid, edges sharpen. You're taking in the entire room at once, no blind spots, no fixed point of view. Everything present at the same time. You're not panicked. You're watching, calm, fully aware. Movement feels effortless. Weight and gravity don't apply anymore. Then the room starts to fade. The edges go dark, and you feel a gentle pull, like an invitation, a current. You're being drawn somewhere, like a helium balloon released from a hand. It doesn't struggle to rise, it just does. Maybe consciousness, freed from the weight of matter, moves toward wherever its natural state exists, towards something it recognizes, toward home. Now you have entered the second stage, the passage, the journey between worlds. The pull intensifies. The room is gone now. You're moving fast, but there's no wind rushing past, no resistance, just pure velocity without friction. Darkness surrounds you. Not the darkness of a room with the lights off. This is deeper, infinite. You're not afraid. The peace from before hasn't left. If anything, it's growing. Then you see it. Ahead, in the distance, a point of radiance. You move toward it. And as you do, you realize you're inside something like a passage. The crossing takes shape, different for everyone. The form depends on who you are, culture, personality, the way your mind organizes the unfamiliar. Consciousness builds its own bridge. Just thinking about what's happening can shape what you see. If you thought the word tunnel, you'd find yourself inside one. Your mind isn't just observing, it's creating. Without a body to anchor it, consciousness becomes fluid, responsive to thought. Some hear music during the passage, a tone they can't name. Others hear nothing, but a silence that feels full, not empty. As you move, the light ahead grows. What started as a pinprick expands, brighter, closer. And the closer you get, the more you see. It's not a single point. It's millions of fragments pulsing, interacting like a school of fish. Alive. The source is alive. And you can feel it. Love pours from it. A love so intense it feels like it might burst you open. The light fills everything now. So vast you feel like you might dissolve into it. And then you're through. You're not alone anymore. Now you have entered the third stage, the encounter. where consciousness meets consciousness. Figures begin to emerge from the light, shaped by what you need in that moment. Some take the form of people you've missed. A childhood friend, someone who left years ago. A grandmother. You recognize them instantly. Others appear as something older, beings that feel like ancient guardians, connected to you in ways that don't fit your current life. Either way, the realization hits: you were never alone. These are the ones who've been with you all along, guiding from the sidelines, moving through lifetimes alongside you. They don't look the way they did when they died. No illness, no age, just them, whole, radiant, unmistakable. Where do they come from? Some believe consciousness doesn't end, it expands, merges into something larger. But when someone you love needs to see you, you can still step forward, become yourself again. The surroundings shift too. The raw light softens, the space becomes familiar, like home, but nowhere you've actually been. Not a location, a feeling, safety, belonging. Communication happens without sound, no words, no movement. You think, and they know. They respond, and you understand. Instant, direct. You realize speech was always the limited version of this. The sense is undeniable. There's a quiet certainty that you belong here. This doesn't feel like dying. It feels like arriving. The presence around you is steady, but the energy changes. A shared realization forms. It's time to move. A path opens in your mind. Here you enter the fourth stage, the life review. Your life starts playing, not like watching a movie. Moments rise up around you, past, present, future, overlapping all at once. Your first day of school, the night you lied to your parents, the moment you held your child, a conversation that changed everything, a smile you gave to a stranger, a harsh word that left a mark. Some shaped you, some shaped others. All of them connected in ways you never imagined. And you're not just watching, you're feeling it from every side. That mean thing you said in high school, you feel exactly how it landed. The humiliation burning in your friend's chest, like it's happening to you right now. That smile you gave a stranger walking by, you see now, they were about to end their life. That one moment of being seen pulled them back. You never knew. Nothing is actually small. Everything counts. You start to see the ripples, how one moment leads to the next. Everything connected. And then you see the people who hurt you, not as enemies. You see their whole life, their childhood, what someone did to them, the pain that turned them into someone who causes pain. And you get it. You understand why. Same with your own mess, the addiction, the shame. You see what was underneath, the fear, the wound you never looked at. You finally see the whole story. Nobody's judging you here. There's no voice condemning you. You're just seeing, clearly, fully, what your life actually was. The things you thought were huge, the promotion, the argument you won, the status. From here, they look different. You see what was really driving them. And it wasn't strength. The moments that glow are smaller. Connection, presence, love, that's what remains. The life review doesn't teach people anything new. It shows them what was always there. They just couldn't see it from inside. When you feel the impact of your actions from every perspective, something reorganizes. People describe coming back with clarity they didn't have before. It becomes part of how they see everything. How would your dying brain know what that stranger was carrying, unless consciousness was never as separate as we thought? Unless on Earth we're just fractions of something larger. And here you're remembering the whole. The life review is over. Your awareness widens, and you notice where you are. You have entered the 5th stage, the boundary. The point of no return. This isn't a dream. It's clearer than everyday life. Colors look deeper, as if what you knew on Earth was only a faint version. You're no longer centered on being just one person. You sense how everything connects, a simple order underneath it all. The understanding isn't explained, it's recognized. Time doesn't work the same way here. There's no sense of before or after, nothing rushing forward. There's a calm sense of belonging, steady and unforced. Then you become aware of an edge. It doesn't always look the same. Some see a river, others a gate or a line. Sometimes there's no image at all, only certainty. You know crossing it means not coming back. You don't want to leave. The peace here feels stronger than anything from life before. The return happens suddenly. One moment there is openness and calm. The next, you're pulled back into your body. It feels heavy and cold, like putting on wet clothes. Pain and sensation rush back. Gravity returns. Your awareness narrows again. one body, one point of view. The world looks the same, but you don't feel the same inside it. A sense of loss for something you had to leave behind. How people return varies. Some are pulled back by medical teams, the physical world reclaiming them. Why some return and others don't? That question has no answer. These accounts only come from people who came back. What lies beyond the boundary, for those who cross it, remains unknown. But one thing is consistent in the accounts. The love people feel on the other side isn't conditional. It isn't a reward for the worthy. It doesn't choose favorites. Everyone who reaches that place describes being met with the same thing. A love beyond anything they experienced on earth. Complete, unconditional, for everyone. What brings someone back may have nothing to do with deserving to stay or being sent away. It may come down to where the boundary happened to be in that moment. We assume consciousness is produced by the brain, that when the brain stops, consciousness stops too. And there's good reason for this assumption. Damage the brain and personality changes. Injure certain regions and memory, language, even the sense of self can shift. The brain clearly shapes who we are. But shaping is not the same as creating. A radio shapes the music you hear, adjust the tuner, damage the speaker, and the sound distorts. That doesn't mean the radio is composing the symphony. What we've observed is that the brain affects consciousness. What we haven't observed is the mechanism by which it creates it, how neurons become experience. After more than a century of research, that question remains unanswered. And then there's the data that doesn't fit. If the brain were inventing these experiences, shaped by memory or belief, we'd expect them to be very different from person to person. They don't. People blind from birth describe the same visual sequences as sighted people, despite never having access to sight. Children too young to have learned about death experience the same pattern as adults, without any cultural framework to guide them. These experiences occur when brain activity is severely impaired or absent. They're structured, coherent, and remembered with unusual clarity, sometimes for decades. If they were hallucinations from a failing brain, they should be chaotic and personal, like dreams. To explain this as pure brain activity, we have to accept that dying brains, at their weakest, produce their most ordered, vivid, and transformative experiences. That's not impossible, but it's not simple either. There's another possibility. What if the brain doesn't create consciousness? What if it filters it, narrows it, focuses a wider awareness down to a single point of view? One body, one location, one moment at a time. A reduction useful for survival. We can't say with certainty which model is correct, but one thing is undeniable. Across thousands of accounts, spanning cultures and centuries, the pattern holds. 5 stages, the same sequence. Whatever happens at the moment we die, it's real to those who experience it. It's consistent, it's profound. And it suggests that consciousness, the very thing that makes us us, and is looking at this screen right now, might be far more mysterious and magnificent than we ever imagined. The boundary between life and death may not be as final as we think. And perhaps that's the most beautiful possibility of all. Before we close, if this video opened something up for you, click the join button below and become a channel member. We make these independently, and your support is what keeps them happening. Members get ad-free early access to everything we release. Five stages, the same sequence, every time. First, separation. The moment awareness lifts from the body, clearer and more present than it ever was inside it. Then the passage, movement through darkness toward a light that isn't just bright. It's alive. It loves. Then the encounter, the people you lost, whole again, and the quiet realization that you were never alone. Then the life review, your entire life, felt from every angle, not judged but seen. And the moments that glow are never the ones you expected. And finally, the boundary, an edge you cannot cross and return from. On the other side, a love that is complete, unconditional, and belongs to everyone. What if we are not a body that developed awareness, but awareness that temporarily borrowed a body? death may be the only thing we all share. And if these accounts are right, so is what comes after.